Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at Etrailer, and today we're taking a look at installing the Curt 4-pole trailer wiring harness on a 2023 Volvo XC90. If you have a hitch already installed on your Volvo or you're planning to, it might be worth picking up 4-pole trailer wiring. And that way, if you do ever need to pull a trailer, you'll have the light functions to keep you safe and legal. Your 4-pole trailer wiring harness isn't going to allow you to have any trailer brakes, but it will give you your running lights, your turn signals, as well as your brake lights. So on a smaller trailer that doesn't have brakes, this is what you're going to be using. Now this one in particular is mounted up inside the vehicle, and that's not super common. You're probably used to seeing them hanging down by the safety chain loops, but I actually prefer having the 4-pole inside the vehicle. Reason being is when you're not using it, it's not exposed to the elements. You can tuck this pretty much in any of the compartments inside so it's hidden, but whenever you need to use it, you just drape it underneath your hatch on the weather stripping, and it's perfectly safe to dangle this out and still be able to hook up to your trailer. Speaking of safe, this is module protected as well as inline fuse protected, so if a backfeed from a trailer was to ever occur, it's not going to cause any damage to your vehicle. And the cool part with this kit is it uses factory style plugs to tie into your taillight. So there's no cutting or splicing required. It just simply plug and plays. Pretty easy to do overall. The battery is located in the back, so you're not having to get underneath the vehicle to get it installed. So if you're looking to get this installed on your vehicle, follow along and I'll show you how to do it. So to begin our installation, clear out the back of your Volvo because we're going to be pulling out some of these panels to gain access to where we need to go. So as we get everything removed, we're just really going to make ourselves a lot of space to be able to route our wires nice and clean. And we're going to be pulling off these side panels as well. So if you can get the just main cargo area open, you should be able to kind of wedge your fingers in here to get this panel taken out. Underneath the flat surface, you're going to have this pocket as well. This comes out fairly easily. Just as you kind of grab here, you should be able to pull this out. And then our side panels should be pretty easy once we have that all out of the way. So just lift up over this plastic. And if you need to, you can use a trim tool. There's a clip that's just kind of wedged in here. So if you press this down, you should be able to get this to pop out, and then we can set this aside. So as you can see, our battery is located right here. So that's going to make a lot of our connections a lot easier. We'll also get the other side taken out. This plastic compartment, there's clips that you just push in here and there, and that's going to allow us to raise this up and out of the way. With our panel out of the way, we can pretty easily gain access to our taillight plug. So just reach up there and push on the top. There's going to be a tab that locks that in place, and we'll get that popped out. So for our first connection, we'll grab the yellow, brown, red, and white wires with our factory style plug, and these are just going to snap in. So we'll jump in there. This obviously will go to the taillight. Now when it comes to grounding, it's already got a ring terminal attached to our white wire, and there's a factory ground located below, and I'd love to use that, but I don't think our wire is going to be long enough. So it leaves us with two other options. We can simply cut the middle portion of our ring terminal and back out the barrel nut that's on the negative. Now that it does not want to come off. It's actually got tabs around it. So all you're going to be doing is cutting this enough to slide it over the size of the bolt that's through there, and you would just simply loose it up, put this in between the clamp, and tighten it back down. Other option that I think is maybe a little bit easier option is to remove the ring terminal and use the larger one that's included in the kit, and that way we can attach to this ground bolt that's right here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this off, and then I'll just strip back a little portion, and then we'll crimp down our ring terminal. Now this is meant for larger gauge wires, so if you'd like to, you can strip this back a little bit further and bend the wire end over end, and that's going to give it a little bit more bite and just kind of secure itself a little bit better in that ring terminal. Once you crimp this down, just give it a quick tug to make sure that it's secure. And then with a 13mm socket, we can remove the nut that's on top of our negative cable. With our ground wire attached, we can now grab our fuse holder and ring terminal, and we'll head up to the positive on the battery. There's this cap that you just want to pop up, and with a 10mm socket, we can remove the nut and place our ring terminal in place. Now instead of pulling off this entire plastic cap around the battery, you can just simply bend the ring terminal, and that way you can get it attached, and then we'll put that nut back on. To get to our passenger side, you'll see pretty quickly that that compartment is not the same size as our driver's side, so getting to that plug is a little bit more difficult. And what we're going to do to not only get access to pull this back, but also run our wires nice and clean, is going to be removing the threshold. There's going to be two 8mm bolts. We'll just get those taken out first. Pull straight up on the threshold to get it to remove. There is just going to be a series of clips, so just slowly take your time. I start on each end and then work my way towards the center. We really don't need to remove this entire panel, just enough to gain access to our plug. So there's this luggage hook, just fold that down and there's going to be an 8mm bolt in there. So we'll get that taken out. And this can stay in place. You can also pop it out. It's up to you, but that should loosen it up enough to where we should be able to work this out enough to gain access to our plug. If we need to, we can also peel back a little bit more, but let's see if we can attack it this way. But this gives me enough access to just reach my hand up and get to where the plug is. It's going to be the same as it was on the other side, so as long as you can get hands to it, that's what we're looking for. But before we get that attached or unplugged, we do want to route our wire nice and clean. So what I recommend doing is taking this, and on this plastic portion right by the battery, this is going to be a big enough pocket to slide this through. It'll keep our wires nice and clean. You can also pass your 4-pole wiring through here. Now there are some wires that are tucked in here, so if it gets caught, just take your time until you can get these to pull through. On the other side, it's nice and open. I can pass this up, and then I'll just hand this to myself up here, and I'll unplug the taillight, and we'll make that connection. Obviously, it's pretty tight to get that snapped in, but it makes it a lot easier than having to pull a bunch of your interior off. If you do need to gain a little bit more access, you can work your way through a little bit more to get it peeled back, but I was able to still get ours attached. I did mention the 4-pole. If you wanted to route this through the same path, you totally can. But this is one that's going to live inside the vehicle. If you really wanted to have it on the outside, you could find a grommet to pass it through. I actually prefer having wiring on the inside. That way, whenever you're ready to pull the trailer, you can just simply drape it on the weather stripping, plug it into your trailer, and then whenever you're not using it, you can store it inside to keep it nice and clean. So you could use this little pocket that we removed for that to work. And at this point, we have everything attached. Before we get everything mounted up properly, we want to put our fuse in the fuse holder and test to make sure that this is working properly. Well, we'll be testing our wiring with a 4-pole tester. If you have the trailer available that you're going to be using, go ahead and plug it in, and we'll just run through the light signals on our Volvo and make sure that we're getting all the proper light signals on the back end. So this will just simulate the lights on our trailer. Starting off, we'll turn on our running lights. Next, we'll do our left turn signal, our right turn signal, and then also our brakes. Now that we know that everything's working properly, we can get everything put back in place as far as our interior. I also recommend zip tying up your loose wires and mounting your module up. There's a few different ways you can do this. You can use the wires to zip tie this around somewhere where it's not going to be rattling around. There's also a double-sided adhesive that's included. So if you find a spot of bare metal, whether it be here or behind some of this insulation carpet, you can stick it there. The main thing, you just don't want this rattling around, once you have it back in place. So go ahead, get that mounted up, everything zipped up. And once you get your interior put back in place, you've officially installed your 4-pole wiring. And that was a look and installation of the Curt 4-pole trailer wiring harness on a 2023 Volvo XC90.